Hey, how are you, everyone? How's everything? Just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to work a little bit of some of this, with my phone, seeing what's going on, and just real quick, as far as the Champions League is concerned, big win for Ajax, a team that throughout the 180 minutes played better. Let's be honest, they played much better. They were the better team. They were the team that was quicker on the ball, was able to move the ball around better. It was interesting to see that because there was an image, a video that came out yesterday during their training session at the Santiago Bernabeu, and it was interesting to see how they moved the ball around and how this team is stuck on an idea. And I mean this in the good sense, that they have a football idea that really is important, that really is intriguing, that really is something where they can stick to. Of course, compared to what Real Madrid's been able to show this year, it's just been a whole mess of things. Everything from the way Cristiano Ronaldo left, the way that Julian Lopetegui was hired and eventually was sacked, and seeing how Santiago Solari, mind you, I was one of those, I will admit, I was one of those that really, if you look at what Santiago Solari has been able to generate as far as from a theoretical standpoint as a coach, I like him. I like him as a coach in the theoretical standpoint, but there's a lot of mistakes that he made that really made this team not function the way that he really needed them to. And time they're playing very well. I mean, let's not forget, just about a month or so ago, maybe even 2 weeks ago, Karim Benzema was probably one of the best forwards in the world. You saw a team in Real Madrid that was functioning, but football's just funny like that. Football has very funny ways of seeing things or doing things in terms of how how they play. As far as how the functionality of a team overall really is kind of important from that perspective. And seeing how Madrid was clicking on all cylinders until maybe last week. Even maybe before a little bit more, you started looking at the Girona match, and that's when you start to see a little bit some of the cracks that were falling through, or some of the cracks that had already been developing. And now you start to see more evident in Barcelona. Really, they happen to be the team that ended up exploiting them a little bit more, and that's when their confidence dipped. And mind you, just last week, this time last week, it was Tuesday going into Wednesday, Real Madrid were still in all three competitions. They're still mathematically in the race, and if they would have won at the weekend against Barcelona, they would have really stretched. They really made it a bit more interesting in terms of how the league was going to end. And of course, that would have put Barcelona in a very tough situation. They lose the Copa del Rey. They didn't play that bad in the Copa del Rey, but the result is what killed them. They could not finish. They could not score. And I don't want to rehash what happened in that match. That's quite evident what already occurred. But if you want to look at this team from the lack of efficiency in front of goal, that's it. I mean, if you look at it, the last four losses that they've had at home, they've been outscored 10-2. You can't consider yourself a Champions League contender. You can't consider yourself a league contender if that's the stretch that you're going through at home. That's the big problem there. Ajax just seemed faster. They seemed fresher. They seemed more prepared. They weren't intimidated. Yeah, they did lose the first leg 2-1. But if you look at how they played much better than Real Madrid in that first leg. It's just Real Madrid happened to be more effective. Plain and simple. That's where you start to see the big problems with Madrid. This Madrid, no Sergio Ramos, no Varane, no leadership really to say, hey, you know what? Let's take this game by the scruff and win it. Too many mistakes. And more so, it was the lack of leadership. Again, going back to trying to put my idea together, the lack of leadership. Benzema, after the match, he was the captain. He did not speak to media. Sergio Ramos, you can call him whatever you want. You can insult him as many times as you want. But if there's one thing he does do is that when things are not good, when things have gone bad, when things have gone sour, he's been there to take the bullets. Again, as I said, he might not be your cup of tea. He might not be the guy you want on your team for X or Y reason. But if you really look at him, he's a guy that's it's gonna be with you through thick and thin. That's one of his qualities. Karim Benzema. I had a guy on Twitter a couple of weeks ago talking about how Karim Benzema has been one of the best forwards, in football history. Okay, fine. Statistics help a great deal, but we've seen so far in the past 4 matches. I think Real Madrid, 365 minutes at home where they did not score off the. Actually, not even at home. In general, 365 minutes until today when Asensio scored, that they had gone without scoring in the run of play. Now tell me, how can you have a forward go that long without scoring? How can you have a team that's contending for all these titles start to, consider themselves viable for a title if they go through stretches, through droughts like that? Benzema had scored from the penalty spot. Gareth Bale had scored from the penalty spot. And those are the 3 goals that they had scored throughout this stretch. Of course, Asensio today. Now, you can use all the stats you want, but when it comes down to it and you start seeing certain situations where the best players have to arrive, Benzema's good, but he's leaving a lot to be desired, that's for sure. He's left a lot to be desired as a player. And that's why Madrid fans aren't really fond of him. That's how come Madrid fans are very fond of Gareth Bale. He could have been the hero last year in the Champions League final. He's had some big games in the past. But when Madrid has needed him most, there's times that he tends to shy away. They paid a huge price tag for him. And Madrid fans are still waiting for Gareth Bale. They're waiting for him to come through in some way, shape, or form to say, you know what, yeah, he was worth it. But Bale has been a bit reluctant. Bale has been resisted as well. It's not just one way or the other. It's a combination of both. It's the Madrid fans, being maybe a little bit too demanding on him. But it's also Bale in certain situations not really being there for his team. That, to me, is just as big a problem as the other. Yeah, Madrid fans can be fickle. Madrid fans can be all of those things. But Madrid fans are knowledgeable. Madrid fans know. Madrid fans are the type that they will go and tell you how things are. Because the demand at Real Madrid is unlike any other club in the world. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. You put on that white jersey, you're in for a tremendous experience or a terrible nightmare. Because everything you do is judged. And that's something that Gareth Bale really hasn't learned as of yet. 6 years almost, something like that, into his time with Los Blancos. That, to me, was probably one of the biggest things. But let's get away from that, because, of course, that's what people want to talk about. That's what people tend to talk about. But we look at this entire Ajax team. I mean, they were sensational. Let's give credit where credit's due. Neymar was tremendous. The goal from Lasse Schön was tremendous. You start looking at, Frankie de Jong just looked so smooth. And overall, the team just looked phenomenal. Dusan Tadic, let's forget about, forget it. Right there, we could really have one entire episode about him. But he was absolutely outstanding. There's really nothing else I could say about him than how tremendous a performance Dusan Tadic had. He just had this team, had Madrid on their heels. And this whole Ajax team, they were just one transition away. Yes, Madrid did come out in the second half. They came out pretty strong. But you somehow thought that, if Madrid didn't score, Ajax was going to get one in. And that could really dictate where the game would be going. And it pretty much happened. That third goal just really was a killer for Madrid. Yeah, they did get one back with Asensio, but that really didn't last long. Oh, and don't get me started on Thibaut Courtois. Oh my goodness. What a brutal performance by him. Yeah, he had a couple of saves. But the Lasse Schön goal, just unforgivable. And it's funny to hear that at the beginning of the season when Thibaut Courtois arrived, he's 14 centimeters taller than Keylor Navas. Well, those 14 centimeters really didn't do him any good on that goal. And he's been struggling, to say the least. He's been struggling all season. It's not just one thing or the other. And I haven't seen this difference-making goalkeeper in Thibaut Courtois. I did see it with Keylor Navas. Yes, he did screw up a lot during his couple of seasons, but man, at this time of the year, oh no, I would not see. I really did not see Keylor mess up that much. Actually, he was one of the reasons why they were able to win 3 Champions Leagues. That's something that was forgotten a great deal by maybe not Madrid fans per se, but Florentino Perez. That's who's going to be getting most of the blame on this one, Florentino Perez. But going back to Ajax, what a performance collectively, individually. It was interesting to hear Nicolas Tagliafico after the match and saying, you know what, we just played a perfect match. No, we weren't motivated by Sergio Ramos not wanting to play. We weren't motivated by those types of things. We were focused on the task at hand, which was winning, and we knew we could do it, especially after what we saw in the first match. That to me says a great deal about this team. That to me, and not only that, the fact that also Tagliafico after the match is over pretty much goes and says, you know what, our focus is on all 3 tournaments because we're still in the running for the treble. That says a lot about Ajax. Now, it does get a little bit more difficult because you might play a Barcelona, you might play an Atletico Madrid or Juventus, depending on who comes out there. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Anyway, make sure you give a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do what you have to do on this end. That little bell, make sure, because every time I get an idea, I'm going to start using a lot more. I really should. I really will. Also, make sure you check me out over on Beyond the Pitch. Make sure you also check me out at Diario Sport. And make sure you also check me out over on my Patreon account. I'd like to be able to do this a little bit more. I hope you can offer a little bit of support, and it would be greatly appreciated if you could. I would thank you immensely if you're able to do so. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Remember, on Thursday, I will do a Copa Lib wrap, as we will be talking about what the action that happened throughout the week. And over on Patreon, before I forget, we'll have the stats of the week in Copa Libertadores. During the weekend, on Sundays usually, I'll put up the stats of the week in La Liga. So make sure you're checking it out. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know. I'm Juan G_Arango over on Twitter, Juan G Arango over on Instagram. And pretty much if you want to leave questions in the comment section, please do so. If you put a real cool comment or ask an interesting question, maybe that's something where I could really look to do an episode in the future here on YouTube. So make sure that you do. Make sure that you're staying tuned. And again, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.